So I'm Emily Heath, and what you don't know yet is my name is Gradualist on Twitter, if you want to throw any thoughts that way. I am not a wizard, but by the end of this presentation, you might see why I've used that avatar. What I am is a senior user experience architect at the BBC, and I work very close to here in Media City in Salford. And we've got quite new offices there, and we have these rather snazzy thought wheels in our building. I thought they looked a bit like headphones when I first saw them, but they're kind of meant to be small kind of one-to-one meeting spaces. But they're actually really uncomfortable. The kind of seats are too wide and you can't lean back and you can't reach the table when you're sitting on them. But they are quite good for sitting and having a think. And I do a lot of thinking at the BBC. I think particularly the UX architect's job is a lot about thinking. And I have been thinking about cards. And I've almost been thinking a little too much about cards. So I've come up with all sorts of punny titles that I might give the various talks that I've been wanting to give about cards. So we've got the playing cards. And of course, as an information architect, there's the whole card sorting thing. So I could have called it something like that. But I just thought to be clear on what I'm talking about. I'm talking about cards, this new design pattern, and how they relate to discovery, because I work in the content discovery team. What time is it? I've got 10 of these to go through. Okay, here are some cards. Should have had 10 of them and I could have timed them nicely to the bells. So I will get to the discovery bit a little later, but I just thought I'd explain what cards are because some of you might not know, and I think everyone has quite a different idea of what cards can be. As I've been kind of looking around the web and trying to get examples, I've come up with a bit of a definition of cards for now, which I'm going to kind of break down and talk you through today, but I'll kind of give it to you up front. A card is a piece of portable, snackable micro-content presented in a consistent and recognizable format. So let's give you some examples. You might, if you've got an iPhone, you might have the Passbook application for your boarding pass, where you can, and tickets for an event like this, you can store in there. So it's really plays on that metaphor of the cards, and you can swipe through them and access them quite easily when you need them, like in the airport. And there's also Google search. When you're searching for a supermarket, as I was, it didn't just kind of give me a list of supermarkets. It pulled out relevant information, a photo of what it might look like, opening times, which is actually what I was looking for. Then Tinder, yes. Some of you might not know about this. I didn't until I started researching cards. It's a dating app that is really, really simple. You don't get much information except for cute little pictures like this. But the reason it's nice for cards is because it has this, it really plays on that metaphor of just swiping easily through a kind of pile of cards, like a stack of photographs, I guess, in this case. And as you swipe one way, that's an accept, like I like them, and if you swipe the other way, it's a rejection of them, and you'll never see them again. Then there's Pinterest. So as an example of many others, I'm sure, but it's a good example of the kind of bookmarking apps that actually pull in a little bit of that content so that you can refer to them, and they make really nice kind of scrapbooks of stuff you've seen online. And then there's the Twitter card, so embedded content in your stream. And also, Sia is an app which serves up kind of notifications on your kind of home screen of your phone, where it scans your emails, pulls out the kind of actionable thing in there, and just asks you that kind of right in front of you. So it's pulling that information in out of the app and kind of into your context. So I hope that maybe helps you understand how a card is this portable, snackable kind of small bit of content that's consistent, that's recognizable. But I just want to talk a little bit more about the presentation format, so that why that kind of little unit itself is so good. And it's largely because it uses the metaphor of the, the business card, or the playing card, or the trumps card. And why those are good, taken into the digital space, is because they're tactile and they're recognizable. So they're kind of familiar, you know what they are, they look a bit like a promo, but there's usually a little bit more that you can do with them. Or in the case of Trello, which is kind of a collaboration tool on the right there, you get a sense that you can move things around, so you can move cards from one column to another, one list to another. And then they're easy to scan. So this is a Microsoft Office kind of finder application for your documents, and it kind of surfaces that information that you might want to know about your documents. So that it's kind of really easy to scan through. You can see like the names of your colleagues maybe who've uploaded them. You can see kind of tags, keywords for them. So it makes it much easier to find things. And Tinder, and again, bookmarking kind of, or recipe apps which pull in that content and are really easy to swipe through. And then saving and sharing is a really key thing about cards. And you might think, well, you can share everything online. But with cards, they really put that functionality right in the foreground. So you've got, on Airbnb, you've got the love interaction up there, and the same with Pinterest. You've got the share and send and pin it and love it, all really key to the experience of a card. The other interesting thing about cards that makes them kind of distinct, in particular kind of distinct from promos or embedded content, if you're thinking, you know, with that Twitter card and embedded YouTube and things, we've kind of been there before, is it's not just embedding content from one place. You can embed content from multiple places. So you can serve up first and third party content in this little format in a consistent way. So for example, with Google search cards, they pull in content from user-generated photos, maps, Wikipedia, all of that's kind of bundled up into this little package, and it's served to you right where you think you might want it in your search results. And then Google do the same thing with, you know, your journey home. Google now, it's time to leave work. Hey, look, we've gone and found all the various traffic details you might need. So they're kind of a mashup of many things. So why are we interested in them at the BBC? And what do they help us do? I thought I'd explain a little bit about my team, so the content discovery team. You might not understand how that fits in. You might be more familiar with the idea of the BBC having a news product or a sport product, and that's largely how we're divided up. So we've got teams, UX teams, sitting with products, TV and iPlayer, radio and music, knowledge and learning, which is like I Wonder and bite-sized educational things. And of course we've got children's, which is a little bit slow and bumpy. And then going kind of horizontally across those products, we have search, we've got homepage, we've got apps, and we've got footer cards. And that's kind of where I sit. So as the content discovery team, we're responsible for these horizontal products. We want to kind of join up all these, all the content here, or rather join up your journeys around that content. And the homepage editorial team recently kind of created a big guesstimate, so this is very rough, but they were looking at how many pieces of content are published on the BBC every day, and they came up with about 2,000 pieces. So that's not like TV programs. It would be great if we could make that many a day. But that's like all the little clips of content that we make up, that we kind of chop out from programs. Radio programs have clips as well as the program themselves, all the news stories, all the sports stories. And so how do you find all that content? Well, that's where the homepage and the search and apps are about driving traffic into those products. And then the footer cards or something we need to create these horizontal journeys between those products. I'm really happy being in the content discovery team because I, as an information architect, what I want to do is replace ladders with ropes. Let people kind of swing around the stacks rather than have to kind of climb up one way. Oh, I'm looking for something else now. Climb down again, go into another section. And it was really nice, actually, just recently, our marketing and audiences team had done a little bit of research about this and came up with this really nice visualization, and I love a data visualization. And this represents, the colors represent our different products, and the lines that make up these petals represent the journeys going between, but mostly within those products. So you've got all the journeys within news, or within sport, or within iPlayer. What you can't see is there are some very faint grey lines which kind of join up these products. Partly that's journeys in search. And what we want to do, obviously, is join those up, because there might be content that's related from cross products. So we move you around the news section really well with these like related audio and video, but that's still taking you to other content in the news. But what we're not doing is, so NASA revealed the far side of the moon recently, and at the same time we had a program on the iPlayer from 1960 available to watch about the sky at night, especially on the moon. But those weren't being linked up, and that's the kind of thing we think cards as a design pattern for kind of horizontal journeys could really help us with. So the reason we haven't got there yet, in case you're thinking, oh, BBC, you should have sorted this by now, is because we've been online since 1997. We have a lot of technical debt. We have a multitude of content management systems. We've got kind of siloed product teams in that, as I described, they're these verticals, but we do have the UX team in place to join them up. So that's what we're doing. So, cards. Could they be a single currency for cross-product journeys? I think they could, and I'll tell you why I think this design pattern could be really effective. This is a Mona Lisa lunchbox. And I like the idea of the Mona Lisa lunchbox to represent these three core things that cards can do, that cards do to help horizontal journeys, or discovery, let's say. So the Mona Lisa is very familiar. Everyone knows who the Mona Lisa is. A lunchbox is portable. You can take it with you. And it's snackable. So you've got something to eat when you get hungry. So familiarity. There's been some research done on how our brains process information, which concluded that it's easier, that the easier and more familiar something looks, the more likely we are to choose it, the path of least resistance. Kind of sounds obvious, like we don't want to fill in a long form, we don't want to read long headlines or headlines that we can't have long words in them. But the interesting thing is the reason that it isn't that we recognize things are hard, it's the familiarity of something. So in this study, they asked a group of people to look through a number of photographs of different people and say which one they thought was the prettiest or the most attractive. So I'm going to run this little test with you right now. I've got 5 pictures here. And I'd like you to take a moment to say, who would you rate as the kind of, the most pretty or beautiful face in there? Now, I'm not going to ask you to all put your hands up for each one, but I'm going to take a bet that a large number of you think that number 3, the middle photo, is the most pretty face. And the reason I think that, and the reason that they found in the study, was because the people picked the face that was actually an amalgamation of all the other faces. So it was like the average face. It wasn't that it was particularly stunning features, it was just that it was recognizable. And they call that cognitive fluency. You can have a go at this online yourself. It isn't just faces where this happens. Alton Oppenheimer studied the fluency effects of the stock market. And stocks which have an easy to pronounce ticker symbol do better than others. So Joy, this is when they first come to market, people don't know who they are. Joy, Key, Cog, Cat, Ann. It's easy to say. And people would buy stocks in them when they didn't know anything else about them. And Twitter's really successful about creating this familiar thing. So if you put your content on Twitter, people recognize the format that it's in, so you're more likely to get kind of people clicking on it and sharing it. Then portability. You like to carry your lunchbox around with you, so you can just you don't want to kind of break your journey to have a snack. So there's an efficiency to having this object that you can carry around with you. So in the BBC, we're really concerned about efficiency. But I'm not talking about the efficiency of like cheap goods from China. I'm talking about the intermodal transport system that containers were built for. It means you can move content around from a lorry to a train to a ship without having to reload. So it saves a lot of time. And this could really save us time in the BBC. It can save you and your clients time in terms of moving your content and spreading it further, spreading your reach. So you can take the same piece of content and it could be on the bottom of an article page. It could be in a listing page or a dashboard profile page. You could look at it later on an app. And you might share it, and somebody will see it on their Twitter stream. And snackability, this is kind of an easy one. Everyone wants to kind of try before they buy, right? Give me a little taste of something. I don't need to go into the psychology here. It's just kind of we're either inherently lazy or we're time poor. So don't just show us a picture of a sandwich. Give us a canapé. And that's what cards are doing here. So how do we go about doing this at the BBC? Well, we've got our global experience language, GEL, where we're putting together a pattern for cards that will be used across all the products. We're auditing all our systems, seeing how they'll be able to, what's that interoperability, the intermodal system. Looking at data structures, looking to how to make the data consistent and the code consistent. And also working with editorial to get that snackable content. Can they find a clip for this content to make it more snackable? Can they give us a little bit more information than just a kind of teasing promo? So just a few examples quickly, running a little bit over, from around the BBC, different people's ideas of what a card can be. So these are all very early ideas. They don't look the same. They're just kind of around the table of what's everyone thinking that we might want to put in there. And then I've gone through and had a look at what are the common elements of all these different bits of content that we think kind of fit this criteria for the cards, so that we can come up with this kind of common card elements thing, which when I showed this a couple of weeks ago, I got some really nice feedback from an accessible communication consultant called Alastair Somerville, who kind of retweeted it and said, great, you know, clear cognitive load, intelligible choices, clear, simple navigation and titles. So it was a really nice bit of feedback about the kind of concept of the card. So this is an initial proposal that we're working with and looking at submitting to GEL. It's really quite basic, and we haven't kind of put in all the different content yet. But I hope that what I've talked about today gives you a bit more of an idea now about the portability of a card and why that's good, why snackability is really good for discovery, and that consistent and recognizable format, how that can help you. Thank you.